I've lived in Florida my whole life. I've seen things that you'd only read about in fairy tales. I could tell you stories that you would swear were false. I knew a guy in college who used to ask to lick people's shoes on the streets, the bottom of their shoes on the street, for his own sexual gratification, I imagine. I don't know if it was sexual, it's my theory, but he used to love licking shoes, and he became known as the Ybor shoe licker. Ybor being the area that he resides in. Point is, I'm getting lost in the lore of the Florida comic book superheroes. The point is, these eyes have laid upon things that could traumatize even the most grizzled of Navy SEALs. And yet still I'm surprised by some of the things that happen in Florida. Today I watched a news story that I can't make heads or tails of. I don't know who's in the right and who's in the wrong here. So I just wanted to share it with all of you because it's starting to convince me that Florida is not even a real place. It's just like a giant sketch comedy section. Like a quarantine zone of bad sketches gone wrong.
Well, I went to jail. They come arrested me last Thursday. They were here.
I lose them to animals, but I was not expecting them to lose them to my neighbor. That was like my friend.
So those are the main characters here, and I'll give you a quick backstory. So they're neighbors, and one of them killed the other's rooster. Now, the guy's claiming it was done in self-defense because the rooster was extremely aggressive, and he's facing potentially up to like 5 years in jail for animal cruelty. He already spent like 30 hours in jail for this. The other guy's claiming he did it just maliciously to kill the rooster. And we're about to get a lot of exposition here, so get ready.
I didn't know to give it a 21 gun salute, CPR, mouth to mouth, or call the chicken ambulance.
Big Roo was Jason DeFelice's pet rooster. That is, until James Nix hit it with a stick.
Now, like a game of Clue, we have the murder weapon and the location of the murder. But we don't know the circumstances as to why. We know James is responsible for the execution of Big Roo, but we don't know the motive. We also know James sounds like Larry the Cable Guy, but that might not be good evidence for us. We get James's side of the story here, and the way he tells this war story makes it sound like Big Roo was the raid boss of this trailer park. He makes it sound like, Big Roo was coming around the block to shake James down for his lunch money, and James panicked and in self-defense hit it with a stick, which unfortunately killed the rooster. He didn't mean to kill it, he just wanted to get it away from him, but it unfortunately led to the demise of Big Roo. He then says that he didn't do CPR or mouth-to-mouth or call the chicken ambulance, saying that he didn't know what to do, kind of panicking about it, which I don't think is going to help James's case here since he just left the body in a ditch. He could have absolutely called the chicken ambulance. I mean, we all know that hotline number, like the Ghostbusters, who are you going to call? Chicken ambulance. But he didn't do even that, so he hit it with a stick and then left it. Which is sad, and I do know from personal experience, roosters can be some real aggressive sons of bitches, that's for fucking sure. I remember being a little kid and like a school field trip took us to a petting zoo. Bro, those roosters will come at you with a head of steam sometime, looking to take your fucking heart out. So I have no doubt that there probably was an element of self-defense here, but I don't blame the rooster or anything, I blame the owner. He was being kept as a pet, and the owner clearly does nothing to like monitor it or keep it on a leash, though I don't know if you're like supposed to keep roosters on a leash and walk them or something. That I'm not familiar with, but like at least keep them from like just wandering in neighbors' yards and being let loose. The owner just didn't do anything to protect his pet and just let it wander the entire neighborhood, which gets brought up here in a minute.
So I'm defending myself. I was feared for my safety, and the chicken died.
Nick says the rooster attacked people.
I have not heard that, because I know the neighbor here. I know him. Like, we're friends. He never said anything to me about it.
I did tell him, after the chicken hit my dad, I said, hey man, the chicken attacked my dad. Oh, it's just a chicken. What's he gonna do? Okay, well, look.
Now James pulls out the receipts here. He's got the photos to prove it. Man was using that Dell laptop to print these bad boys out specifically for the interview, showing that the chicken does have a history of attacking. So he's saying that his father was a victim of the Big Roo, and you can see some of the scars here. So Big Roo was terrorizing this area, though Jason disagrees, saying that no one ever said that, including James. And truthfully, I just don't know who to believe here, because it's very possible James could have just printed off any photos of a leg injury and claimed it was Big Roo that did it to try and establish a history of violence, to try and justify the self-defense with the stick. And I'd like to see the stick that struck down Big Roo, because that's got to be the biggest stick in all of Florida. Like a goddamn mahogany tree trunk, or like a caveman's club. To take out Big Roo in a single strike, that thing must have been the weight of Thor's hammer.
The neighbors even disagree on how others saw Big Roo.
The kids that used to live over there, they were throwing rocks and sticks at this chicken to keep it away.
I know the kids down here, they played with the rooster a little bit, like would throw rocks at it and chase it.
So one
Jason, that's not playing with the rooster. That's being afraid of it and trying to get it the fuck away from them. Who plays by throwing rocks at each other? Hey, Bill, come on over here. Let's play this fun game of being stoned to death. It's great. Like, again, it's hard to know who's in the right and who's in the wrong here, but I am leaning more on the side of James did this as an accident in self-defense. Jason's attitude is pretty douchey, and he does not understand what playing is. Oh yeah, that James is a real jerk. He's a no-good liar. Everyone in the neighborhood loved Big Roo. The kids would throw rocks at him, run away screaming and crying. It was so much fun, and I know they're going to be really upset to learn the news here. Also, I think Jason does bear a big fault because he's the pet owner, and he did nothing to, monitor the pet, just leaving it completely open to roam the area, clearly. Even he's not defending that. He's talking about how, like, the neighborhood kids would throw rocks, so clearly there's a history of Jason just letting the rooster wander around completely unsupervised, which is very irresponsible.
One day when Nick says the rooster followed him and attacked him.
His neck flares up, and he's doing his thing, and he's trying to jump up at me.
He was trying to get the animal away.
This makes total sense to me, because if there was a big rooster coming at me and it started busting out the Squidward dance, I'd probably panic too and try and flee, or, flight or fight response would kick in. It'd be a real mess. Again, the way James tells this story just seems a lot more genuine than the way Jason tells it, but it's just so hard to know for sure. But I also think it would have made a lot of sense if James truly did this in self-defense, to go to Jason and be like, look, man, we all loved Big Roo, and unfortunately something tragic just happened, and then explained it to him. I feel like it wouldn't have got this far, but it seems like he just left the rooster's corpse outside, just like rotting outside. So, which means that Jason now doesn't trust James' story, because James made no attempt to, communicate what actually happened to Jason, I guess. This is just, there's so many fucking plot lines going on here. I feel like I'm trying to dissect Evangelion. It's just so many moving parts.
And I try to hit it, but the chicken's jumping up at me, and I accidentally knocked it in the head. Call it a lucky shot, whatever.
But when Dave Felice came home, all he saw was his rooster dead in a ditch.
You see what I mean? Leaving the body out there was just a bad move from James, because it immediately makes Jason question what the fuck happened and why. It makes it seem like James just killed his rooster in cold blood and left it outside like a trophy, or a warning to other roosters, like Vlad the Impaler, putting the goddamn Big Roo on a pike. It's just there could have been a much more efficient way of handling this, just like more communication, like, Jason, you stupid imbecile. You again left Big Roo unsupervised, and it tried to attack me, and I accidentally hit it in the head, and unfortunately it went right to Valhalla. They could have talked it out. They both shoulder a lot of blame here, but I really do think Jason's intentions were self-defense. Roosters, again, from what I understand, can be very aggressive. Jason openly states, yes, this rooster just wandered around this entire area. Neighborhood kids threw rocks. The other neighbors over here, knew the rooster. So clearly there's just a lot of problems in general with what happened here. And it's a sad story, but one that I find so fascinating.
I said I'm calling JSO. I called JSO. JSO didn't do nothing. And then a couple days later, I realized I could call animal control.
And in late June, James Nix went to jail for animal cruelty.
Next thing you know, he calls the chicken police on me.
That's the last organization you want to visit from. The chicken police are no-nonsense, ruthless, strictly business, merciless, and they will fuck you up. God have mercy on the soul of someone who gets a visit from the chicken police.
While the neighbors continue the fight, Nick says he never should have been arrested.
Chickens are dying every day, people, at churches, Popeyes, and Kentucky Fried Chicken. Really?
He's not wrong, but it's not a great comparison either, because it's not like those chickens are being hit with a stick in the back of the restaurant. That they were factory farmed. This was a guy's pet. Again, I think both people are at fault here, but I just don't know who's more in the wrong. I don't know if it's necessarily animal cruelty if it was done in self-defense. Like a rooster, I mean, they could hurt you, right? Like, it's not like they're completely unable to do damage to human beings. People get attacked by chickens and it causes damage. Usually not life-threatening or anything, but you still don't want to just be attacked by a random animal just on your way home. Again, Jason shouldn't just let his roosters wander around and, rampage this whole neighborhood. And James should have done more to tell Jason what happened. That it was an accident, that Big Roo attacked him. So, again, just a wild story. And Florida is just so full of wackiness, I couldn't help but just bring this one up. That's about it. See ya.